Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by BetMGM. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me just after Game 2 mercifully ended is Nick Martin and a special guest, Action Network's own, the newest darts fan in the stable, Tim Kalinowski. Tim, before we bring you in, I'll flip it to Nick here. The two of us we liked Florida. I thought that this was a good time to bet into like an Aiden Hill slop fest game, and I had the wrong goalie.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah. Whoops. Not good. But now we're gonna go back to Florida series 2-0 to Vegas. The Panthers all over the place, no composure. But I mean, if the opening odds are telling us anything, it's that kind of hold your horses here. Florida's minus 120 in game 3. It may be a little bit of a must-win tax being baked into the price. Vegas, even money. The over-under sitting at a flat 6. Nick, anything jumping out to you right away?
No, nothing jumping out to me at all. I thought maybe that it would be, I think Pick'em was my guess. I was surprised that Florida was favored in the end. I mean, what can you even say about that game? We thought we had the right handicap, especially when Vegas comes out in game one and actually, or I should say, Florida comes out in game one and plays 50-50 at even strength. It felt like if they cleaned up the penalties, the special teams play, all those good things. And then not how it went. Game just completely falls apart again. And I mean, personally, from a side, I don't really have anything to say here. I think it's another one of those ones where it feels like it's just kind of a toss up. Definitely, like you say, I think there's some must win tax baked into that minus 120. I wonder if we see that become a little closer to pick. I think if I had to go with anything out of the four options with the size and totals, I think maybe the under. If we can see Bob bounce back. And some of these goals have been like they're doing a good job getting net front presence, but I do think some of them have been kind of fluky screens too, where like I think the Nick Waugh goal is like a
Yeah.
pretty example where it's just been like a lot of those where it just works out to be so well done and like shots coming through at just the right time. So credit to Vegas, but also like I think maybe we'll see Florida clean it up in this spot. So if anything, I think the under would kind of be my one lean where I definitely don't have a lot for game 3.
Yeah, I would kind of go there with you. I think the more I think about it, I think I'll start to get closer to a bet on the three-way tie, perhaps in game 3. That Nick Waggle, I'm glad you brought it up. Because the U.S. broadcast was really ragging on Fitzgerald for that. I just thought it was a weird goal. Like it just happens. I don't think it was anybody's fault and ends up in the back of the net. And I think even the Martinez goal too, just kind of a broken play ends up on his stick. And uh, all this kind of points to what I think the biggest takeaway from these two games is Florida just hasn't had any composure in the big moments of these games at all, and maybe that's the break or whatever. They've lost their rhythm. You can point to whatever you want, but I just don't think that they'll be this bad. So I think that the three-way tie, if I had to pick a side, I still would lean towards Florida. I still kind of want to bet against Aiden Hill, but we'll see. Tim, what are you thinking here for game 3?
Well, it's funny. I went three-way tie tonight because
Close.
when you invited me, yeah, I just missed it. When you went on the when you invited me on earlier today, and you're like, "Oh, we're gonna record after the game," I was like, "Okay, then this is gonna go in overtime." So I was hedging against how long we would wait to record, and that didn't go well. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I can kind of gauge your guys like how you feel about this because for game 3, first off, I don't think Florida's dead. I think Vegas is a hard place to play. Like, the old, they still no one's lost a game at home yet. So series is still very much alive. But also I feel like, yeah, you said okay, the must-win tax is baked in, but also like not that like I'm gonna unload on it, but this is one of those things is like it might be your last hockey bet of the year. So I'm gonna, quarter unit on Florida, quarter unit like Florida three-way, quarter unit like Florida puck line. Like, you know what I mean? For me, I kind of do a thing where I'm like, sayonara. If you're gonna, if I'm gonna be done, like, just kill
Pretty
me
much
tonight.
exactly what I
Yeah.
did tonight, just punt and long shots and stuff. But yeah, and I think like Florida probably hasn't been that much drastically different. Like I think game one was exactly the kind of game where everything had gone Florida's way this postseason, where they're finding a way to be the one who comes up with the one critical goal in that game. You know, when it's deadlocked at 2 midway through the third, it felt like that's a Florida spot all playoff long. And then,
Yeah.
you know, that's the game they don't come up with a goal in that spot, and everything looks a lot different. So yeah, I fully agree that they're alive. It wouldn't be surprising to see them make it a series. It tonight unraveled, but I mean, clearly that was just kind of became a comedy of errors.
It feels like a little bit like the game 3 for Dallas against Vegas. A little bit like where they left Vegas down 0-2, and you're like, they deserve better than that score line, and we expected them to try to take the bull by the horns in game 3, and they did the exact opposite of that. And in this one, it was Florida. I don't want to say they deserved better than a loss in game 1, but the score line was certainly misleading, and thought they'd have a better bounce back effort, and one power play goal against, and things just kind of circled the drain from there. Yeah, I think the must win tax will be built in, because and that's what's kind of negating all the momentum with Vegas. Like in a situation like this, I think a lot of casual money would just show up on Vegas. But when you got these two kind of conflicting market narratives, it'll maybe even each other out a little bit. And that's why I don't think this thing's gonna budge much. You know, maybe it'll be a pick 'em by the time the puck drops, but I don't really see it budging much either way. Which is why I think what Tim you're saying is if you're gonna bet Florida, I think that's the way to do it. Is, you know, to go looking for something something big, make it worth your while. Kicking myself is,
and if not, you just go. It's summer.
yeah, exactly,
You know?
right. If not, you get ready. You look at the odds for next year, and you circle that Islanders 50-1 and get ready for it. But the uh the one I was kicking myself about was Lindell, because we were about Forsling and we were on Duclair again in this one, and Lindell had what, 4 shots on goal in the first game. It looked really good, and he gets a albeit meaningless goal. But I think that still going back to some of those Florida long shots like Forsling for game 3, Duclair, etc. Is where I'll be looking. Nick, any player props you have
I'm a little
off of this one? Is it Jonathan March or so to score, you know, minus 165?
no, I can't jump. Yeah, I can't jump in on that train now that I've missed it. I'm just looking now. He's at plus 100 to win the Conn Smythe, which seemingly is a
I was getting
little
jacked up because
absurd.
Barbashev was shot out of a cannon the first 10
He
minutes of the
was
game.
so good. He
I was
was
like,
so
He's
good.
been great, but the
I
problem
know.
is it's his line, and the
I
other
know.
guys with the bigger names are
Yeah.
buzzing and collecting so many points. So I don't know, but yeah,
What
I
about
don't really have a lot. I like Duclair again. I think
Yeah.
if I'm probably not going to go.
Markov was really good too. I thought, like, he's the only
It
player in
was the
Florida.
right duo to
Yeah.
have. Like they could be due to break through. I'm a little, like I said, just a little more weary that it's going to be lower scoring. Whereas like tonight, I was happy to punt because I did feel pretty confident it was going to break open. Not enough so to play the over, because we talked about how I thought it was just outside the price range, as we seem to do. So yeah, I really don't have a lot on this one. I think maybe if you're going to bet Florida too, like, are you thinking maybe they're going to make it a series? I feel like if they win this one, that's probably where I'd be leaning.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of player stuff just tonight. Super like major emphasis on active D for Florida tonight. You know, they didn't really get a chance to actually, you know, get into that forward check and like really, you know, there was at times, and then they would take a bad penalty or whatever, or it was out of reach. But like, if Gudis is going to be out for game 3, like, just is there a way to get at Florida D shots, Florida D goals? Just because I think that that's the only way to go at this point. Like Maurice has said, they want to emphasize that. They talked about it on the TNT broadcast basically for the whole first period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy too. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, Mike. It's crazy to think we're at a point where Radko Gudas looks like a pretty big
Yeah.
injury because
Yeah,
and
I
he's
know.
been great this postseason, but like he was already playing a huge role on a really depleted defensive core, or like a thin defensive core, I should say. And now it's like we're talking about it like it's really relevant, but it could be really relevant. It definitely seems like those minutes might matter. And this was already Vegas's biggest edge, where defensively their core 1 through 6 is just a lot better. So that will be interesting news to follow too at this point.
Yeah, because we talk about this a lot on throughout the season. It's not a okay, his minutes go to Fitzgerald or Fitzpatrick, whatever his name is coming in for him. Um, it's that they get spread out among Mark Stahl and players like that ilk. So uh, it's it's hard. They're hard minutes. They're penalty kill minutes. It's not a good situation to lose them. But yeah, I think to Tim's point, like I think Forsling again, uh, talking about active D, like that's going to be the guy that I'm going to hope kind of makes up for how games 1 and 2 have gone for me. He was 7-1 as an anytime scorer, 30 something, 35-1 to be the first goal scorer. Uh, Tonight, going to be around that again, and I think that'll be the play I'm most excited to make again is something with Gustav Forsling of all people to get on the board.
And then the other half, the other half of the handicap being because Gudis might be out. Like what the
Yeah,
hell are we like what the
Well,
hell are we
and
talking about?
but to be fair though, like it does matter, especially because I don't think it'll be a thing where they're playing the third pairing as much as usual.
no,
They're just
yeah.
going to try to
Ekblad and
ride
Forsling are gonna,
Forsling
yeah, play 30
exactly,
minutes.
and Montour will probably play a ridiculous amount. And I think that guy's blood doping or something this playoffs because it's
Yeah,
just I don't know what's going on with him, but it's insane that he just goes and goes. And I think the other note too, like I hate to go down the realm of like, are the refs going to find some calls? But it does kind of seem like maybe Florida gets a few more calls because it's been, how I've been kind of picking on them maybe getting away with a lot. But what I thought this series, they have been pretty hard done by and have some rightful complaints. So maybe you'd think in this spot down 2-0 on the road, maybe the refs are going to, make things work out a little bit more in their favor. So who knows? It's odd to see such big discrepancy and like maybe a few points where it actually could have gone better in their favor, I thought. So that could be another good note for guys like Montour and Forsling.
all right. So Tim, you'll be on the Panthers and kind of a
Yeah, in some way. Just to conclude, like I think Vegas when they play at home and they score first, the ice tilts. Just like there's something about that place when they get going that I'm like, you know what, a team's not dead yet. Let's go to game 3. Let's reset. I don't believe in game to game. Like, this isn't the fourth period of game 2. This is the first period of game 3. So,
right.
that's I'm gonna go with the Cats or I'm going golfing.
And I
Yeah,
mean, what was Florida when they're down 3-1 to Boston? Like 100%, that's a way worse predicament. So they definitely can lean on that situation a little bit here.
yeah, I would agree. It kind of the momentum narratives and the way kind of people were talking right after the game on Twitter reminds me a little bit of Devils Rangers in round 1-2, where the Rangers took those 2 first games in New Jersey. But everyone just kind of, because you have nothing else to go off of,
Mhm.
are just assuming it's over. So you're right. Like the way, if you're just looking from a pure value perspective, like big picture outlook, it's going to be on the Cats. But it's not going to be a fun one to make after what we've seen from them the first 120 minutes of this Stanley Cup final. Let's hope that they, Nick and I gave it the kiss of death by just kind of pleading that we get a strong series, like it's like an interesting series here. So we'll say it again. But that'll do it here. We'll see you guys again after game 3. Hopefully have a little bit more to chew on. Maybe the Cats have a little bit of a dead cat bounce or something. But until then, for Nick Martin, Tim Kalinowski, and our friends at BetMGM, I'm Michael Leboff. Thank you for listening to Line Change.